If you haven't seen part 1 of this series on the Goldline GVA-24 automatic valve actuator, I'd suggest you watch that first. There's going to be a link in the description that will show you that. I took a look online. You can't get just the motor. The only thing you can get is the entire valve actuator. But the good part is it's very easy to replace. Let me show you. So here's the valve itself. There's a whole bunch of screws in that. We're interested in that one. There's one right on the other side. And in the back, there are two there. Those are the biggest head screws that you're going to see on there. And you need a number 3 Phillips screwdriver for that. So take a look at these screwdrivers. This is a number 1, number 2. The number 2 is a standard Phillips you use for like everything. But here's a number 3. It has a bigger tip on the end. Now you don't have to go out and get a special number 3 screwdriver. If you have like a multi-bit set, a lot of times it will include a number 3, but that's the one you want to use. However, in my particular case, I don't want to dismount the old valve right away. I want to unplug the wire first. So my wire goes into the control box for it, and the only way I see to get in here are to remove these 2 screws. I already have this unplugged and disconnected, so there's no power going to it. I'm going to take out the bottom screw first. These are regular number 2 Phillips. I've never opened this before, so I don't know what I'm up against. And it doesn't sound like that screw wants to come out. So already we're off to a great start. This one is over here. Dead. Anyway. Alright, that's just a panel that comes off, and these screws are captive, which is why. Let me set that aside. There we are. And now we have a transformer, a couple of circuit boards, all kinds of great stuff in here. Like I said, I've never been in here, so I've never seen this before, but this black wire that's right here is cable tied. I'm going to have to cut the cable ties with some ant, get rid of him. It has a red plug there, and that unplugs from there. And you want to observe the polarity of it. It pulls right out, white, red, black. Just like that. I have to cut these cable ties and get the wire free to the old actuator. And now it's just a matter of feeding the wire out through the bottom grommet here. So pulling, poking, prodding, all that, you'll get it. Push the connector through, wiggle. There we are. Now that's out. Some more cable ties and stuff over here that I need to disconnect. So I'll undo that. I'm going to try my best not to block the shot. In the back, there's 2 screws. These are pretty long thread from what I've seen. I don't know how far they thread in. Not terribly far. So we got 2. Here's the third one. It's loose already, I can tell. So there's 3 and 4. If you need to, you can move your handle to get that free. You can do it manually. You just unscrew the center nut, and then you can push or pull on the handle up or down and be able to move it. And it's free. That's all there is to it. So let's get this out and take a look. So here's the stub that's left that the new valve is going to engage with. There's a big cutout, a big cutout, a big cutout, and a small cutout. This could be in any orientation on your pool equipment. This one happens to be like that. So we want to remember that the small end is kind of on the left, because I want to mount the new one up in the same way with those 4 screws. All right, here is the new one. It's It's upside down, but that doesn't matter. And in the box with mine, this, by the way, is made by Torque, as you see there. There's one by Torque, one by Intermatic. There's the actual Hayward Goldline one. You have your instructions. The new valve actuator is here, so we'll pull that out. Comes with new screws. You can use those if you want, or you can use the old ones. I think I might use the old ones. Little cardboard thing over the stem, and a new nut to screw it down. So now let's compare the old one to the new one as far as this shaft goes. So I'll pull that off. This unscrews right here. And the handle lifts off. So we'll just park that over there. And I am in luck because the small part and the small part are in exactly the same way. And that should mean that the bottom small part is in that same position. Ooh, this one's got an O-ring that's not in great shape, but that's all right. It does have the small part in the same orientation. So this should be a drop-in installation. If it's not, you're going to have to rotate this, and the instructions will tell you how. You're going to have to rotate it in order to orient it the same. Now, the next thing I want to do is look inside the new valve. I know you might be saying, why are you going to open up a brand new unit? There's nothing wrong with it. The book tells you how to open this cover in case you have to make other adjustments, and that is something I want to check also. Even though these screws are a number 2 Phillips, I find that a number 1 seems to be the right size for it. It just seems to fit better. And there's a couple things in here that I want to check. So we're going to pull these 4 screws. So there's 2, and on this side we have 1 here. So we'll pull that out. And this one, we're going to pull that as well. And now the cover should come off. Should is the operative word. I guess I'm going to have to move this and need 2 hands to really get on this, so give me just a moment. Alright, so inside looks very similar to the old one. I'm actually curious about the height of this motor. It looks taller, and there was something in there I was going to check, but the reason I brought you in here is because of these blue things. Now, I don't know if you can see right there, it has like a wing on it, and there's 2 of them. There's an upper and a lower, and on this side there's a wing and another wing on the bottom one, and they're both facing that same direction. The valve is supposed to operate 180 degrees in most cases, but that can be adjusted. I did want to just look at the motor. This step you don't have to do. Already it's not exactly the same as the other one. There's little washers on there I gotta get as well. There we are. And the motor should just pull out. It's kind of glued in. There we are. It is slightly different from the old one. So I don't know if my old trick of putting washers in to raise the motor in case this gear gets worn is going to work. I also really don't feel much in the way of lubrication on there, so I'm going to put just a dot of grease on that and reinstall the motor and close this back up, and then we'll talk about one or two other things, and then we'll go and actually install it. What I was mentioning before about these blue wings here, you can compare that to your old one. Take apart the old one and see where the wings are. These appear to be in exactly the orientation I need them to be. So we're going to see, we're going to test this before I actually go and install it. I'm going to show you how. So I'm going to close this back up, and then we'll go ahead and test this out. Okay, here's the new valve. There's the box that it plugs into. On your valve will be a switch, just like this one. This says auto on 1 off and auto on 2. The position of this switch has to be set accordingly so this synchronizes with your controller. I don't know what position that's going to be. The old one was on 1. This might be 1. It might be 2. It's not going to be off because then it doesn't work. But it's going to be one or the other. So we're going to find that out. First thing I'm going to do is, just as a test, plug this in to the controller. So let me get that plugged in over here because I got to see up close. Alright, so here's the new one. It's plugged in. I have the switch in the 1 position. And if I turn this to manual test, manual test would be turning the solar on. So this currently, if you watch carefully, is making a 180-degree rotation. It goes slow. And now it just stopped. Problem is, that is 180 degrees out from what I need. So we're going to flip this switch to 2. And now it's going to make its way back and should stop at the other end. So we'll wait for that. It's about 90 degrees now. Take a while to turn these things. They go pretty slow. But that's kind of what you want. And it stopped. So now in the manual test, which would mean the solar's on, this is in the right position where the small cutout in this will line up with the valve itself in the plumbing. So this switch has to be kept on mine in position 2. That's just how it goes. It could be one or the other. This one's just going to have to be 2, and that's that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the solar controller completely. I'm going to leave everything as it is. I need to disconnect that wire because I got to run it up through the bottom there. We're going to mount this valve first, and then we'll take care of the wiring. So now, verifying that my small spline is in the right position with the stem of the actual valve, which it is, it should theoretically just go right down over onto that. And it does. It just sits there, it's loose, we got to put the screws in, so let me get those in. Alright, I have all of my screws started. In this particular application, I had to use the new screws. The old ones were shorter for whatever reason than these new ones, and they weren't going to line up, you know, or be long enough. So I had to use the new screws. That's all right. This, you may have noticed, does not include a new handle, because I didn't show that to you before. So you're going to have to reuse your old one. And I found something kind of interesting with that, which unfortunately is something I'm just going to sort of have to live with. Again, this has the same splines with the one skinny one which is on this side, because you'll see it doesn't go any other way. That's the only way it fits. See that? It's just different manufacturing. So it is what it is, basically. So I'm going to just try to line this up as best I can. I don't even know if it's going to matter in the end when I get that tightened down. Hand tight only. And yes, it is rigidly mounted, so that should be just fine, theoretically. So with that said and done, all that's left now is to run the wire. So I need to just bundle it up with the rest of the wires there and that. So I'll do that, and then we'll run it back up into the control panel, and then of course we'll test everything out. All right, I have the wire bundled up. I've left myself a tail, if you will, right here, and I'm going to just sort of shove that up through this grommet. Not going to be easy, but it'll go. There it is. So now I'm going to reach through, pull that through, and plug this connector in. Now, I had it in the top connection. I don't know where it was when I started, because I made a rookie mistake and I didn't watch. So it is what it is, but that's where I tested it before and it worked. So that's where we're going to leave it. I don't want a chance blowing anything up, because like I said, I've never done this before. This further proves that you also, as a homeowner, can do this. A couple of screws and one wire. That's all we did here. That's really all we did. There is no need for you to call a pool company for them to come in. I got the new valve over there online. I'll even tell you where I got it. I got it from AZ Pool Shop. That was the best price I found on it. Again, it's a Goldline GVA-24 automatic valve actuator, so that's the search query you can use. And this one from Torque came up. They actually did have the Hayward Goldline one, but it was out of stock, and this one was cheaper, so it does the same thing. So why not, right? Should be just fine. That really is all there is to it. The original installers, I don't know if this is in frame here. Yeah, I think a little bit. All they did with the bundle of wire here, because depending on your pool, this could be, you know, 1.5 miles away. They just used the original twist tie that was on the wire to bundle everything together. That's good enough there. I think I'll just put a cable tie around it just to ensure it's there. All my stuff is rattling, but we're good because the AC started up. All the screws and whatnot I have on top of it are just rattling. But that's it. So I'm going to just pull this up a little more, push that down in there, cable tie all this together. This paper is there, so we're just going to put it back. And we don't have to touch anything else. Might not be a bad idea while I'm in here. I'll show you quick. Might not be a bad idea just while I'm in here to ensure that all of these screw terminals are connected and nice and tight. Incidentally, this is unplugged. Do not do any work inside this panel with it plugged in. There is live 120 volts in there. If I were to touch those, gonna get zapped. Not a fun time. So, like I said, just gonna dress the wires up. We'll put the panel back on, give it a test, then we'll fire up the pump and ensure that it actually does open and works properly. I figure I'll just show you this while I'm in here. I've done the green screw and white wires. Take a look. It's not even tight. I mean, it's not loose, but it's certainly not tight. There we are. Now it's tight. That one also. Now it's tight. Green one is tight. So we have 4 connections here. So we'll just ensure that was loose. That one. And that one. There you go. Who's to say any of that should be loose? That should have been tightened down. Now, could it have loosened up over the 20 or so years that this has been in service? Absolutely. So I can't blame the original installer for that. They may have indeed tightened it up good and it loosened up over time. But just check it while you're in there. Again, make sure it's unplugged and has no power, because you will get zapped. All right, it's time to put the cover back on. So, have the cable tied there. This just sort of fits inside. Sort of like that. 2. Put that down careful. It's plastic, so not too tight. You don't want to break this and say, oh, I broke that after everything, you know? Okay, that's all in and good, and that's great. So everything is set now for us to go ahead and plug this back in. Now, the switch is on manual test. The valve for my solar I have left in the on position, so the solar was turned on, even though the valve was no good. I did it manually. I've installed everything in the same orientation. The valve actuates, the actuator actuates 180-degree sweep, which is exactly what it was. So everything here should be a go. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the solar controller. Okay, that plugs in. This takes about 10 seconds to reset. It has. And all my lights on are here. All my lights are on like they were, like they would be in the manual test mode. I'm now going to switch it to off, and the valve should make 180-degree sweep. There he goes. So it was a little sluggish to get started for whatever reason. It operates at about the same speed as the old one, I guess. I'm not really sure. It's pretty close. Maybe a little faster, a little slower, but oh yeah, that's good. And it should stop when it hits 180 degrees, thereabouts. It did. That's a wonderful thing. I'm going to turn the pool pump on now. All right, pool pump is on. Let me just give the water, you know, just a minute to get rolling here. Do its thing. There we are. That click, for whatever reason, indicates that I have pressure in my filter, which I do. I don't know if you can see it, but long and short of it is we are definitely up and running now. So now I'm going to back you out, and we're going to see a couple things. I'm going to turn the solar on, and the solar always has air in it when it's empty because it drains out. So first thing I'm going to do is just move it to auto. If the sensors are convinced that up on the roof is hotter than full temperature, it's going to turn on depending on the temperature you have it set to. I leave it cranked full chooch there, so we'll go one click, and yeah, it's moving. So now we're going to let that do its 180-degree sweep. We should see and hear air. We're most notably going to see the chlorinator shake because of the air. It's jostling just a little bit, but nothing you can probably see. Now it's almost 180. Now it's 180. Just now, right there. And you can see that's bouncing around. So if we go over to the pool, we should see air come out of these jets. It's coming out of one of the other ones. There he goes. and that's all the air that was in the solar. So that means the new valve is operating properly. Again, this one I had to leave in switch position 2. I don't know why, it just was, but that's okay. It's either 1 or 2, just to get it in sync with the controller. That's why it's all there. And like I had stated earlier, there are a multitude of different brands. This was Torque, there's an Intermatic, there's the actual Hayward Goldline, and maybe 2, 3 others, something out there like that. All of those may be wired a little bit differently, but they're all going to have the same connector. The website that I got it from, again, was AZ Pool Shop, and they said it's pretty much compatible across the board for any of them on the market. Pretty much if you have an automatic valve actuator like that, that's the one. It's going to fit, it's going to work, it's going to plug in. Looks a little different, that's all right. But yes, we have proven indeed that it can turn the solar on and off. The controller is going to handle when and if it does that. Now, as far as the wiggly handle, like it had originally, it's nice and tight now, and it's definitely pointing 180 degrees from the other side. It might be maybe a degree off, but that again could be just the play in the handle. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut it off and then force it back on. I'm going to speed through this footage just so you can watch it operate full speed. And there we are, all done. It's operating properly, it's in sync, everything's all ready, and the job's done. Like I said, provided you can get everything lined up like I did, and your valve, your old one, made 180 degree sweep, just like this one did, it should be a pretty much drop-in installation. And incidentally, if your new valve was 180 degrees out, and that definitely could have happened, that could have been the case. I just got lucky. Easiest way, plug it into your controller, twiddle the controls in there, or you can do that 1 and 2 switch on the valve itself and let it operate back 180 degrees or 90 degrees, whatever yours takes on your pool. And that's all there is to it. Just do that, then disconnect it, mount it up. It'll fit right on the shaft like it did. Screw it down. 4 screws and 1 wire. There is no reason for you to have to call your pool company when this happened. And I'll tell you quite honestly, okay, like I said, I've never done this before. And when that thing broke, I was scared. I was scared because I said, oh man, this is going to be 500 bucks easy. Oh, this is terrible. They got to cut the plumbing. They got to do all it, because I didn't know what was involved. And then I looked into it and I found that no, none of that is the case. They know that the actuator can and does go bad. Now, if the valve itself in the plumbing went bad, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to get somebody in for that if you can't do that yourself. But as far as just the actuator, it just slipped on. Put the screws in, you're done. Nothing to it. And that's it. So it went from, oh my God, this is going to cost me 500 bucks, down to about $100 for the actuator itself. I just saved $400 by doing it myself. I hope you can do the same. I have now given you the tools you need in order to perform this job, and I hope that that will help you in the event that your GVA-24 automatic valve actuator goes bad. It does happen, and it happened to me. So it could happen to you. Just watch out for it. You never know. You'll hear it when it goes bad. It makes all kinds of racket, and you'll know things aren't working right. And that's it. It's all done, all together. So I thank you very kindly for watching. If you would please, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons. There's also that big thanks button down there if you would be so kind. That lets me know I did a good job making this video and I can continue to provide them for you. Have a great day. Happy swimming.